welcome in our special guest, Stephen Hill. He is in Bedford County Board of Supervisors. No, I almost screwed that up. Bedford County School Board. I don't want to. I really don't want your parents yelling at you for that. All right, tell us a little bit. I think for the most part, we'll spend a little time talking with you about possibly. I don't want to say the word because it is a dirty word. The redistricting word.
That's right.
All right, dive into it. Tell us what we're doing.
I gotcha. Well, I just want to kind of first introduce myself. My name is Stephen.
How about your background? How'd you choose to be on the school board? All that.
Oh,
well, don't just jump right into redistricting.
Yeah, so I grew up in Bedford County. I went to New London Academy. I went to Forest Middle School to JF. Once I graduated, had a family, moved back into Bedford County. My first year of my oldest child going to school was COVID. And so we're starting to go kindergarten 2020. The school board at the time told us, hey, no mask required for elementary students. We're all good. We're going in there. A week before school begins, they changed their mind. So me and my wife had to make a decision at that time. And my wife grew up in private schools, so she was always leaning towards sending our kids to private schools. So we were really, that was a big deal to us. And so we kind of made the decision at the time of, you know what, we're not going to give up. I'm not going to let, this group of people that I disagreed with, run our county in a way that I don't think needs to be run.
Sure.
So then we kind of got involved. In 22, 23, we kind of worked with the redistricting effort. Working against the redistricting effort to move my kids. We built a house in Good specifically to send my kids to New London Academy.
Gotcha.
And they were working to redistrict them out of there. At that time, I didn't support it, and I had a lot of arguments back and forth with the school board with that. And then in 25, the representative for District 3, Dwayne Nelms, was moving out of the district. He found a house and he was moving his family to another location. And so he called me up and said, hey, all the complaining you've been doing, now's the time to. So I interviewed for the position, got appointed. And then this past year in last fall, I got elected to serve a 4-year term on the school board there. So that's kind of how I got there. And, a lot of it's just about, I'm passionate about keeping Bedford a place that we want to raise our kids in, and I want my kids to want to be back here.
Sure.
So a lot of that is making sure we have great schools, making sure we have a place to put kids as we're growing in certain areas of the county and as we're shrinking in others, being good stewards of our taxpayer dollars, making sure that we're doing what's right, not just for the students that are there now, but the students that are going to be there in the future. So to say all that, kind of get into the meat of it, Bedford County has not necessarily a unique problem, but we are growing as a population. Our population is growing, but it's not growing because of birth rates. If you want to pull over to I pulled up a couple slides here from our presentation last night we had from a consultant. If you want to go to the Bedford County in brief. Sorry, this is my fault. I sent it to you completely out of order.
Yeah, that's okay. MO good.
There
All right.
you go.
So this is our housing going back to 1900. Okay. As good of records as they could pull from going back there. And you see we kind of spiked up in the 1990s and the 2000s. We're putting in, 6,300 new houses or new dwellings every year every decade. Well, you go to the 2010s, and obviously that was affected by, we had a recession in 2008, slow growth. But right now, as we stand right now in the 2020s, we're looking to, if the pattern continues, to be about where we were at the 1970s. Okay. It's hard to grow a population if you don't have houses for them to go to. Yeah. And if we're not replacing houses in such a rate that we can continue to grow, it's going to be a problem. And obviously, there are areas where we're growing, like in Forest and New London, kind of coming out to Good now. And there are areas of the county that's shrinking. And so when we talk about redistricting, we're really talking about how we can most efficiently use all the buildings we have in our inventory. We have 21 schools that we currently run in Bedford County. The state says we need about 19 of them. So we've already made the decision to close Stortsville at this next academic year. That was a tough decision, and some of the numbers that we went through last night in our board meeting with our analysts was showing that was probably the right decision. But there still needs to be more that we talk about, more balancing out, so we're using our building and our staff to the best efficiency. Because if you're running a school costs about $1 million a year to run.
Right.
Once you remove all of the teachers, I'm just talking building maintenance, administrative, counselors, secretaries. If you've got a building open, if you've got 4 kids in this building, you've still got to have those people there. So in order for us to be able to say, hey, we're being efficient with the money that we're provided, we've got to make some really tough decisions. In order to do that, like I said, we've already chose to consolidate one school. We're looking now forward to, all right, how are we going to be more efficient with the rest of our schools, and kind of seeing on September 10th, our advisor is going to come back and give us scenarios, and then we're going to start hosting town halls to get feedback from the community before we vote to make this final. But if you want to pull up the 2000 age structure, you see back in 2000, so I'm going to get a little dorky with some of these graphs here. So this is a pyramid graph. It's showing our population based on age. The ideal shape that you're going to want to have with this is a pyramid. You want to have the most amount of people in your 0 to 4 range and the least amount in your 85 plus. Mm-hmm. As we are, and obviously this one back in 2000 was closer to that, have a little arrowhead look to it, but you still have more younger people than you had older people. If you look now into 2024, and the 2000 data was based on the census. 24 is based on projections. So you have a couple of anomalies in there, but it's starting to become an inverted pyramid, which is, in Bedford County, we have an aging population. Yeah. We have more people in the 55 plus category than we do below it. And it's typically those people aren't having a whole lot of kids to put in our elementary schools. And so as our cohorts get smaller, we've got to now plan for the future of, all right, well, we have areas that are growing because of net migration, and we have areas that are shrinking. If you go over to the components of population change, this is how Bedford County is growing. It's migration. Mm-hmm. If you see that blue line there, that is our migration. That's our net migration. People moving to Bedford County. Mm-hmm.
Don't you think a lot of that has to do because your school systems are good? Like, that's what I've always felt is development. People follow because they want their kids to go into good schools.
I absolutely think that's part of it. I think that's, Bedford County is not all just our school system. We have a lot of great things that are going on. We have a fantastic Parks and Rec department. Mm-hmm. We have really good community environment. Mm-hmm. But I think schools are a big part of that, which is great. And I want to keep on attracting people here. But in saying that, so we have all these population concerns that we have now. We also, on the other side of things, which is really kind of motivating everything that we do in the school board right now, is we have what's called the reversion coming up in 28-29. Back in about 15 years ago, I believe in 2013, 2012, mm-hmm. The town of Bedford, the city of Bedford became the town of Bedford. Mm-hmm. We had an agreement that to do that, we locked in the town of Bedford's local composite index, the LCI number. And the LCI number is how we get funded from the state. So right now we're at a 0.31. That's the number. So that means 69% of our funding comes from the state. Well, here when the reversion happens here in just a couple of years, it's going to change to, we're projecting right now about a 0.45. So really what that means is about $11 million that we're not going to be getting from the state anymore. So we've got to be more efficient with our buildings in order to soften that blow. It's going to be a blow regardless. Yeah. And we're either going to have to make cuts, or the board of supervisors is going to have to make tough decisions on finding more revenue for us. And I don't envy them on that side because that's never fun either. Nope. But so we've got the big push now.
And how big a budget do you have? I'm sorry.
So we're about $130 million budget.
Wow. Good grief.
And that budget, it's big.
So you're about to lose 10% of your budget, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've been planning for this for years. It's not like the board of supervisors and the school board have not been planning for this. Right now we've set aside about $8 million. But in doing that, we've also got, I want to be able to, before I go to the board of supervisors and say, hey, I need more money from you guys, I want to be able to say we are running the most efficient operation we can. There's certain things that obviously you don't want to sacrifice. Really proud of Bedford County Schools. We are ranked 31st in the state as far as the testing metrics go. And at the same time, we're about 118th in the local funding. So to me, as a businessman, that's a great ROI. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of that number. A lot of it is due to we have fantastic teachers and staff and counselors. We have great parents in our organization. I think outside of just the teachers, the parents are they're the ones that make us stand apart. If we didn't have parents that were engaged and involved, we're not going to see the results that we're seeing.
How many are total in the state? You said 118th in funding.
131.
So we're almost at the bottom in funding.
We're there, and I'm not necessarily complaining about that.
Yeah.
I'm politically probably closer to a libertarian, so
yeah.
I'm not saying that we need to be the most well-funded, and I don't think you see the top funded schools, they're not necessarily the best schools.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I do think that, it's something to take into account. Our teachers, we're ranked about 112th in teacher pay. That's something that, I really want to focus on, making sure that we do better at that. But I say all that to say, this is why we're really looking at redistricting. It's been on the table for 13 years now. The first proposal that I could find back in our board docs was 13 years ago to redistrict. And every school board has, for good reason, bad reasons, and different, have decided that was not the right time for it. We've come to a head now to where we have places like Stortsville Elementary at under 50% capacity. You have Otter River, which is just above 50% capacity. Where at the same time you have Forest Elementary School, which is closing in on 100% capacity. You have New London Academy, which is closing in on 95% capacity. We've got issues, and we've got to figure out a way to balance those out in order to protect the organization for the future.
I agree.
So
100%.
Is the hard decision, and the reason it's been 13 years, technically, just like you were in that camp, you don't want to have NLA kids going to Otter River. Am I saying that the right way?
Well, so that was the proposal back in 23. We had a good amount of kids switching over there. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's,
No,
it's one of those things of, you get your kids that have friends there. You decide on where you want to move, because I went to New London Academy. I want to send my kids to New London Academy.
Sure.
And so there are a lot of real world where, it's easy to sit here and look at demographics and go, oh man, I can switch all these roads around. This is easy. But when you start factoring in the human cost of it, the human cost has got to bear in something. So our goal is, and what we told our consultant last night he's going to be designing the maps on September 10th, presenting it to us, is, we're wanting to balance the human cost. I understand how to make it efficient. I didn't need to hire a consultant to make it efficient. And he's done a fantastic job in laying out data that I didn't even know existed. But being able to sit there and go, balancing all of that out, understanding the transportation cost, you're not going to want to send a kid, that's zoned right now for Forest Elementary School to Big Island. That might be the quickest route, just popping right over Charlemont. But you don't want to send them that way.
So is it one of those things where you and I have had this discussion too in the past about once you go to a school, you finish at that school and the new kids would go somewhere else? Or if you were in the third grade, now in the fourth grade, you might be going somewhere else?
So that's something that we've got to determine. We were talking about that last night is do we grandfather kids in? Do we let them finish out their school career at that school and then move on? Or do we go ahead and say, we've got to do it right now? Because there's some schools where, to be honest, we have to do it right now. Like Forest Elementary, we're bumping right up against, having to add extra units to those schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so when you listen to it, the argument makes a lot of sense with what you're saying. With, you've got a school like New London, you want your kids to continue to go there, but like the kids that were going to Stewartsville, Goodview, whatever it's called. What is it called? I forget.
Stewartsville.
Their option was closing.
That's right.
Right. That's a tough one to swallow.
Absolutely.
And we've closed Thaxton. Now Stewartsville.
Body camp.
Body camp. Yes.
Body
sir.
camp. So, I mean, those kids didn't, they had a choice, but they really didn't. I mean, it closed. So you got to go somewhere else.
Yes, sir.
And so in this particular case, when you think about those, they look at that argument and go, you're going from, New London to Otter River, right?
Yes, sir.
And so that's the other side of the argument. But it all makes sense. There's no sense in keeping a school open that's at half capacity or less, right? I mean, that's
absolutely.
That's the smart decision to make.
And they came up with this in 2024. This was voted. It got voted down. It may have, I don't know that they didn't have the backing behind them to really have the data.
Right.
Which I would, and I actually fought against hiring a consultant because, again, I've got libertarian tendencies.
Yeah.
I don't like spending money, especially taxpayer money because I'm a taxpayer. But I will give it to our consultant here. He did a fantastic job in laying out. So now I can not just go of, hey, me over here in District 3, I'm going to change someone else's district out there in 1, and it's not going to affect my constituents at all. We have actual hard data that says, hey, this is why this exists. This is why we're doing it this way.
How do your other board members, how's that going along? There's 7 of you, right?
Yes, sir.
How's that going along with what they heard last night and what you're about to get into?
I haven't had a lot of conversations with the board members since last night, but I will tell you, just from the questions that were answered during the public hearings, it went really well as far as we were all extraordinarily impressed with the level of data. And I brought just a few slides here. I think he had like 45 slides that we went through last night. I would encourage everyone, if you get a chance, whether you have students or not, this affects your property. If you are in Bedford County, the property value may change. Be aware, we're begging for people to give us feedback because we don't know what we don't know. And so we have all of this analytics, and the analytics is great. And I can make a decision based off of analytics, but it's hard for me to make a decision based off of the human cost without understanding that.
So I'm just curious, tough question, but you previously had stated that you were against redistricting.
Yes, sir.
So would this data have changed your mind when you were against it?
I think it would.
Okay.
I think it would have at least given me and that was what I argued previously.
Yeah.
I went to the board and I argued, and
The data doesn't make sense.
the gentleman that was there that was presenting the data, he's no longer with the school system, but he didn't have the data make sense. Now, he was an employee of our school system. He didn't do this for a living.
Yeah.
But the data didn't make sense. The data was going off of potential trending that may or may not happen.
Sure.
Well, now I have these are the permits that have been pulled. This is how we're looking going all the way back to the 1900s. I didn't know we could go back to the 1900s. But the man did a great job. And I honestly, I would say that, as a businessman, I always say, I'm going to make the decision based off what the data shows.
Great.
So I think there's still room for the human cost, but at the end of the day, the data is what the data is.
And I appreciate how Brian approached that. This is a good way to say it. So these are tougher questions, and you and I discussed this, that you wanted to be on on air where you could have long form discussion. We're not up against commercials.
Right.
That's not sound bites. And
Yep.
Sure.
And we're two dumb guys that just ask the questions. But when you say, I think it was 69% comes from the state of your budget, is the other 30% coming from the Board of Supervisors? Are they where do you get your other funding?
So about 26 comes from the Board of Supervisors, and then about 4 or 5% comes from the federal government.
So another tough decision that could be made that might help you offset the $11 million that you're losing is the Board of Supervisors raise taxes or attribute more money, send more money to the school
And
board.
that's why I'm glad I'm on the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah,
That's raising revenue fortunately, as a school board member, I got nothing to do with revenue.
Yeah.
All I can do is ask for more.
Yeah. And you're a steward of the taxes. I mean, it's obvious you hear that.
Absolutely. But I think that's something to be looked at. I, personally have a real hard time with, raising taxes in Bedford. I think that's part of what makes Bedford great is our low tax rate. But to counter that is if we want to continue to offer great services and continue our net migration increase, schools are part of that. And, we've spent, and the Board of Supervisors has done fantastic. We just renovated the auditorium at Stanton River and Liberty High School. And man, those state-of-the-art facilities, like those are amazing facilities. I'm really excited for what they're going to be able to do there. But that costs money. It's got to come from somewhere. And, we were very fortunate that the Board of Supervisors, set aside those funds and let us go after them.
Well, one other formula in the variable, or one other variable in the formula, is to increase the number of people that are getting taxed. And that is density.
Yeah.
And we have a board member, and I know that you don't have to hear this, but I'm on my soapbox a little bit. We have a board member out there trying to make it sound like we don't need any growth. Obviously, we do, and the way to do that is to do the migration that you see here is attract people.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like, and we had this discussion a little bit last night, but when you have great schools, you attract people. When you attract people, you attract development. You attract good parents, right, that come in and want to have their kids go to good schools. So you get smart kids and you get good schools because you got smart kids leaving those schools. It's a beautiful cycle that works as long as all those things keep happening. So and you got to stay on top of it.
Absolutely. Actually, you set me up perfectly.
Yeah.
Can you move over to the enrollment forecasting? This is what scares me. So yes, we get our funding from the state, from locality, and from federal government. But really, our numbers are tied. Our funding numbers are tied to the students that we have in our schools, and that's continuing to go down. In 2006, 2007, we're sitting there at 11,000 students. This year, we're probably going to be around 8,500, and it's looking at it, there's a real good chance that it's continuing to decrease. And a lot of that is birth rate that we just can't help. That is a national trend, international trend, really, of decreasing in population. I was talking to the advisor last night, and he was saying something that shocked me. Here in the next 10, 15 years, Nigeria is going to be the third most populated country in the world. And so, because we're trending the opposite direction, I think we're at 1.7 on a birth rate. And I don't know if y'all realize this, but it takes 2 people to make a kid. Yeah. So if you're producing under 2.1, it's going to be, we're going to continue this decline in enrollment. There is a portion, Bedford County has a great homeschool community. So there's a portion of our population that goes there. We have great private schools at both ends, at Liberty Christian, Timberlake.
Well, they're also dropping. I mean, it's a national trend.
It's a national trend. And so what I want to also talk about is we've got to find more way to bring more people to Bedford, to bring more students to Bedford. And we as the school board a year ago, we even dropped our tuition for out of county residents to come in to attempt to continue to fight those numbers. Sure. Because I think Bedford has a great product. I think we are top notch. I mean, it shows by the testing. We're 31 out of 131. Yeah. We're doing great. We could always do better. There's always room for improvement. Yeah. But the only way that we're going to continue with that is to continue to get population.
So here's my tough question.
Yeah.
Because you're the business. You got your business hat on.
Yes, sir.
So if you see a trend where you're steadily losing enrollment, how has your what's the word?
Staff hiring.
How's your staff hiring gone with that trend?
So what we've done is so our big thing is we want to have small class sizes. So even though our population has dropped about 11% in the last 10 years, we have hired 4% more teachers in the last 10 years. But in doing that, we've also dropped our central office staff. Our central office has decreased by about 5% in that same time.
Can you decrease it by 50?
So
that's my soapbox. And
absolutely.
So the example that I give is when I went to school, your central office made up of about 8 people, and it was pretty much they had It was your superintendent, a secretary, your bus, maintenance,
Yep.
and then I think one or two others.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was it.
So Bedford County, that is something that, and I will give all the credit to our previous board. Marcus Hill did a great job at starting to work to trim that down.
Okay.
The state says, so we have what's called SOQs, standards of quality. The state says that we should have 82.5 people in our central office. We have 26 less than that in our central office, somewhere in the 60s. And we're going to continue to make that more efficient. The problem is the difference between when you went to school and when I went to school is we've taken a lot of society's problems that we have and we've thrown it on the school.
Oh, I don't disagree with you.
So
there.
we've got, in the summer and during COVID, and we've still got to support our students' nutrition. That's on us.
Yeah.
We're educators. That's not something
I know.
that we should be having, but it's on us. So we've got to keep that running. We've got, all of these mental health services. A lot of our central office staff falls into that. And again, I don't think that should go under the schools, but it does. According to the state of Virginia, it does go under the schools.
Sure.
I think it's part of a whole education, and I think that is part of it. But I don't think we should have to staff this many full-time psychologists. But we do. We're required to. And so if we're going to continue to throw more things on the schools, unfortunately, that means that our administration is going to have to increase because you got to have somebody to supervise that.
Yeah, and that's what I didn't know is whether or not it was state mandated or not.
Yeah, there's some of that state mandates, some of that, like I said, especially with teachers and instruction, we have added more on that. We have said, you know what? In Bedford, we're going to keep class sizes as small as we can. Okay. In Bedford, we're gonna prioritize instruction. So we do have just about every subject has its own instructional coordinator. That's what they do is science, or they do math, or they do, because we think that's important. I want to create a county that produces really smart kids that can go out, continue to get into the workforce, and then continue to thrive in Bedford, grow Bedford as a community.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did you, I warned him too. I told him what your pet peeves usually are, but if he left here, you would think later and be like, tag, I forgot to ask about sports funding.
No, sports funding to me, and it obviously you've got budget issues. I get it. But I honestly believe, I know, we've had coaches that were in the Bedford County School District that went on to coach college. Mm-hmm. And the very first thing they will tell you is when they were recruiting, the state of Virginia is by far the lowest paid when it comes to athletics.
Yeah.
It's atrociously different than other states.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet we are one of the highest recruited in athletics. Mm-hmm. So our kids are going to college through athletic scholarships, and yet we continually do nothing to fund them. And when I say nothing, it's very, very bare.
Yeah.
Like most athletic directors will tell you they start in a deficit.
Yep.
From day one, they're already in a deficit just to write a check to officiating. Their whole budget's gone. And yet we somehow get through it. And it's like, it's getting more and more difficult with the way things are. For me, I look at it because I coached for, 15 years, and you see the kids that if they don't have this avenue, they're absolutely not going to make it. And to me, I watch school boards go through these processes of, and I'm just using Chromebook as an example, the billions of dollars that are spent in that. When I have a proven curriculum that has worked perfect for 40 years in teaching you how to work as a team, something you're going to have at a job. You're going to have to learn how to show up on time. You got to work with it. It teaches you everything. And yet we don't fund it at all, at a decent pace.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of our funding, like I said, over 69% of our funding comes from the state. Mm-hmm. The state a lot of times dictates where those monies go based on the SOQs. Sports is not high on their priority list. And so
nuts.
I'm 100%, I'm big. The two things I'm passionate about are physical education with our children. And yeah, I would consider sports part of that. I wrestled, I played football. I went through the whole FYA program when I was a student. I think there's invaluable skills that I learned from that, but we've got to fund it.
Yeah.
And right now we're having such a hard time with our funding in general. It's almost inconceivable to go, all right, we're going to add something else to that. And so a lot of the programs are, supplemented by boosters or parents or, some type of organization. And that really and you see it across the state, it really advantages the schools that have a more affluent population. Yeah. And so I agree that's a problem. I just don't know the solution.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to get there. I'd love to, if someone has a solution, I'd love to get that. But we have so many other budget constraints and budget concerns. And I hate to, it's our kids. There's no amount of money I wouldn't spend on my own personal kids.
Sure.
But at the same day, I've got to balance this budget and we've got to be efficient and we got to be smart with it. And so I've said this plenty of times. We get a lot of proposals in the school system. Last year there was about 15 that the superintendent brought to us that said, hey, I'd love to fund all these. And all of them are great things to fund. But we only have a finite amount of money. And so it's a zero-sum game. So whatever I take from one entity, I'm going to add to another, that entity loses.
Yeah.
And so I think we've done a decent job. We've expanded our sports into middle school, which I think was very important. We did that. The previous board did that to where, we have now organization schools all the way going back to middle school. I'd like to continue that. I'd like to grow those organizations. I'm just running up against brick walls right now.
Sure. No, I know. And it's very difficult. I can understand because, and I don't want to just say it's athletics. It's any extracurricular stuff that like the investments that you're making in the auditoriums is important. I mean, those kids dedicate. We've been to plays at JF and Liberty. I mean, they're phenomenal. The work that they do, and it goes past high school onto other stuff. And so I don't know how you get there either. I've never figured it out. I've tried, but it's tough.
I think our board is willing to work on those things. I've not gotten someone that's come to me and said, hey, this is where we can have a solution at.
Yeah.
And I'm not an educator.
Yeah.
I'm a businessman. I'm a father. I've got 3 small kids. I want to have them a place to play sports and to grow. I want to expand all of our extracurriculars, but that comes at a local cost.
Yeah.
And if we want to, we're not getting money from the state from that. We're not getting money nationally from that. So that's going to come locally. And we've got to encourage the tax base to go, hey, we're okay paying more money for this.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I don't know many people that want to pay more taxes.
Well, can schools individually, and I'm curious, I don't know the answer to this, but a good example to me is Liberty High School has a phenomenal FFA program. Can they work directly with, tractor dealerships or things like that to get more funding for that? And it's excluding JF or Stanton River, whereas those have their own niches.
And a lot of PTAs do that. I'll talk about New London because my wife's the vice president of their PTA. Their big fundraiser is that fence outside of their property. They put advertisements on that thing, and we all run by it 50 times a day.
That's right.
Wow.
And so they take that money and they put it towards, I think last year they bought 2 big smart screens for teachers' classes. I think this year they're raising money for playground equipment. And every school has something like that. And those are obviously the public-private partnerships are huge because the private sector wants to be part of the community. That's a great way to be part of the community is by supporting these public institutions.
They do, but I get angry at the big businesses because a lot of their employment comes from our local high schools. And you don't see, like if you go to a smaller community, like I went to Honaker for a state semifinal game, you pull over and I don't know if you've ever been to Honaker, but when I say it's in the middle of nowhere, I mean, you're going 30 miles before you get to a convenience store. So, but when you pop over the hill, there's this gorgeous school. The turf, fields, locker rooms, everything's immaculate. But everything has one name on it, and that is their manufacturing facility that pretty much employs the whole town. And they donate millions back because that is their employment. It comes from that school. And I would like to see our businesses do that here.
Yeah.
More of it. We have millions of dollars, that should be pouring back into our local schools.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of times they've also have those programs. It's just, you got to know where to look for it.
Gotcha.
Now this is not a big thing, but last year, New London wrote a letter to Walmart and said, "Hey, we need new balls for our recess yard." And we got buckets of that kind of stuff. And now they're good for years now.
Sure.
And so I think those exist, but you got to find it. You got to work for it. And, I would love for more businesses to approach us instead of us having to reach out to them.
Yeah.
I did see something in Tennessee I thought was a cool idea. I actually sent this to Marcus, and Marcus was busy. So he didn't. I bet Marcus probably replied to 80% of what I sent him. But it was really cool. In Tennessee, the school buses actually have ads on the side of them. They're like just a school board,
Yeah.
Along the chain link fence that you were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was kind of the cool thing. They're driving around neighborhoods. It's a perfect billboard to put on the side of something. So might be something to look into. Well, like what Brian just said about trying to find local companies that hire local kids that come out of the school. Is there a liaison, or is there anybody that does something like that reaches out for the school board to local businesses?
No, sir.
So
That's
Brian,
what
he
we
just
do.
created a position for you.
No, that is what we do with the Minutemen Club. We did separate than the Booster Club because we only go to those big businesses and they donate to our organization. And then we, of course, give all the 100% to the schools. But our whole philosophy was we want to make relationships with these type of businesses so that when we do capital improvement projects, we can ask for a $10,000 check and not a $500 check.
Yeah.
And currently we have 18 businesses that pay us $1,000 a year to be part of the club. We've started at 10 and now we're up to 18, and we'd love to have 30 because that's $30,000 starting from the start. Just annually, they keep, but it's to be able to develop. You can't walk into someone's office and say, "Hey, we're doing a locker or a new weight room that's costing $125,000. Can you donate $25,000?" They're looking at you like you're stupid.
Yeah.
You got a 15-year relationship with them. It's a different story. And so that's what we've tried to do over the past 8 years with the Minutemen Club.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those local schools do a great job with that. But as a school board office, that's not something we've ever really pursued. I think we've allowed the each individual school to do that. But it does benefit some schools more than others, depending on their organizational level. And so
we did get money. We sent out. We did a what's it called? A grant. With Dick's Sporting Goods, we asked for $10,000. They gave us $3,000.
Yeah.
And we just asked. But I'm not a grant writer, and if you've ever filled out a grant, it's a process.
Yeah, that's right.
And so finding a grant writer would be phenomenal.
And so, especially in our forest area, a lot of those grants they're not eligible for. My wife tried to do a grant for I think it was Clorox, and it was to provide hand washing stations in the school. Yeah. Something very, and she got to the last page after about 15 pages, and it was like, what percentage of your school is on the free lunch program?
Right.
Yep. What's your average median income? Yep.
And so then it goes, and then they just say, "Hey, thanks for setting that in, but we're not interested."
Yep.
And so, you run into a lot of that as well, which is neither good nor bad, but it is just the facts of being in Bedford and bringing in a population that does have some affluencies.
Sure.
What are some upcoming dates that if people are still tuning in after listening to Brian? Just kidding. What are some upcoming dates that people can attend that you want them to know about?
So the next big important date is September the 10th, and that's when our consultant, demographics analyst advisors, they're going to come in and present different scenarios. We haven't given them a number. It's probably going to be 4 to 6 different scenarios that we can adopt, and then we as board members are going to be holding individual town halls throughout the month of October and November to determine, what the feedback is, what the community wants, what's their hard lines, what they definitely don't want. And, we get a lot of, hey, this is great, and I think you need to do it, just not my house.
Yeah.
And so it's figuring out how to create those scenarios where we are understanding that, yes, everyone doesn't want to be affected individually, but how do we do it in a fact that is fair to all of Bedford County, is fair to every individual district. And so that's going to be our challenge. And so we're going to be having several of those town hall meetings. I know in District 3, I'm going to be having 3 different ones. I'm still waiting on the different locations to respond back to me on the exact dates. If you follow my Facebook page, Stephen Hill for Bedford County District 3 School Board, I post up regularly. I post up several times a day sometimes. Okay. And I have a commitment to where I will answer every email. My phone number is on there. Call me, text me, email me. I will answer you.
All right.
One of the legends in my life, most influential people, Rush Limbaugh, but I'd say Charlie Kirk was right in there. And Charlie Kirk says you're going to change the country if you change the school boards, if you're on the school board. And just your passion, you can hear it. And I'm so glad we have someone like you on that school board, man.
Well, I appreciate it. And, I've got 3 kids. I got a 5th grader, a 3rd grader, and a kindergartner. So I'm going to be in it for a while.
All right.
You got the question?
Oh, yeah. You can't get out without the question.
All right.
All right. So if you could spend 24 hours with one person, past, future, present, who would it be and where would you spend with them? Where would you go to spend your time with them?
Brett Favre, duck hunting.
Oh, man.
Mississippi, I would assume.
Yes, sir.
That's
awesome. I bet you it'd be a fun time.
I grew up in the 90s when, my dad was a bigger Packer fan from the 60s. And so I kind of inherited it. And it was a great time to be a Packer fan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He might not have been the best quarterback to ever play the game, but he has to be one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch play the game.
Definitely.
Well, we appreciate you, Steve, from coming in. Again, Stephen Hill with the Bedford County School Board. And this segment was brought to you by State Farm.